Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Starr today here on Starr FM. I am Tutuwaa Danso. A listen to the top stories this evening. And coming up in the broadcast, Ghana issues public alert as country records first monkeypox case with 230 other suspected cases under various stages of investigation. Tonight on Starr Today, we bring you the latest on this, plus bring you up to speed on how to prevent it. Also in this broadcast, hundreds of Ghanaians pour out onto the streets of Accra, chanting "Stop Galamsey," free protesters as they begin a 3-day protest in demand for an end to Galamsey and release of 53 persons remanded in police and prison custody. We have more for you shortly, plus take you live for updates on the protest march. Now, also coming up in this broadcast, Ghana winning the war against Galamsey is a question that has been asked following reports that there's a significant reduction in water turbidity levels in some river bodies across the country. We will also bring you the latest on the looming public sector shutdown after President Akufo-Addo summoned organized labor to a meeting. And later on the broadcast, we ask, is Danso back?
As we speak today, there is load shedding ongoing. Gridco has been cautioned not to inform customers.
We will assess the growing reports of power outages a few days after the minority hinted the dark nights are beckoning once again.
As we speak today, there is load shedding ongoing. Gridco has been cautioned not to inform customers.
And later on the campaign trail on this bulletin, we sit with a member of parliament for Ablekuma North, Sheila Bartels. We have the details of these and many other stories in this 1 hour 30 minutes broadcast. Do stay.
Starr News is coming to you. Starr News is coming to you live on Ultimate 106.9 FM in Kumasi, Empire 102.7 FM in Takoradi, Cool 103.5 FM in Ho, Rage and Might FM in Tamale, Songali FM in Wa, My Star Radio in the USA. Also live on Facebook on Starr 103.5 FM and on starfm.com.gh around the world. This is Starr 103.5 FM.
Thank you very much for choosing Starr today. We start off on health this evening because Ghana has issued a public health alert after the country recorded the first monkeypox case. Now, the Ghana Health Service confirmed the case of monkeypox in the Bia West district of the Western North region. The patient, who is a 15-year-old boy, sought medical attention last month at a district government hospital after experiencing fever, body pains, a sore throat, and a rash on his palms and face. The public health advisory issued by the service today noted that 230 suspected monkeypox cases have been identified across 88 districts nationwide. Let me quickly run you through the statements issued by the service. And it says that on the 1st of October 2024, the National Public Health and Reference Laboratory of the Ghana Health Service confirmed a case of Mpox following the testing of samples from a patient from the Western North region. The patient, a young male, as I said earlier, presented with a history of rash, fever and general bodily pains. The alert medical staff took the appropriate samples and dispatched them to the National Public Health Reference Laboratory for laboratory investigations. The suspect cases of mpox was isolated in line with protocols for managing mpox. Now, 25 contacts of the case have been identified and are currently being monitored. The patient has since been discharged and is in a stable condition. The statement further goes on to say that a month ago, the Africa Center for Disease Control, CDC, declared mpox a public health emergency of continental security, with the World Health Organization also declaring it as a public health emergency of international concern. Now, several countries in Africa, notably Congo, Nigeria, South Africa, and Cote d'Ivoire, have reported cases of mpox in 2024. Let's go over the phone lines now and have a conversation on the back of this worrying development. And we've been joined by Dr. Thomas Anaba. He's Executive Health Director of the Africa Center for Health Policy. Doc, thank you very much for your time. So we are learning about the first outbreak of monkeypox this year. How worrying is this development?
Definitely, it's a worrying issue because the transmission is very simple, and then the consequences are not that very good because it will limit people from their activities. So, monkeypox is a disease that is not common in our system. So, because of that, people might not know how it is transmitted. So, the best to do is to, let's get people educated to avoid the easy spread of it. Yeah. So.
Beyond education, what are some of the containment measures that you believe the Ghana Health Service, for instance, can institute? Because, as you rightly indicated, it is indeed a worrying development.
Our containment issues is just trying to make sure we identify anybody who has the monkeypox, and then we do a contact tracing and make sure those people are isolated from the community, from the public, just like coronavirus. But this one in particular is transmitted through touching of secretions in contact with the persons with it or with clothing. So that's why I'm talking about education. Education to make sure that people understand what to do, especially when you meet somebody with the manifestation in it or you have the manifestation in your skin, you avoid getting into the public. Make sure you stay away from gatherings that you get close to people and touch them and it will be transmitted to them. These are some of the things that we have to do. Hotels, for instance, bed sheets must be watched frequently. If you enter a trotro and see somebody with those lesions, you make sure he goes to a hospital and report himself and make sure you take care of yourself very well. So the best is to educate the people by showing the images in public areas, in trotro centers. You put the pictures there of samples of monkeypox in hotels, in theaters, in areas that there are gatherings. You put images there for people to see, to identify the lesions and also identify how to stay away from people with such lesions so that we don't transmit it.
Now, Doc, by way of education, you have worked in the health sector. I believe you're still working in the health sector. Why should people be scared or worried about monkeypox? Is it fatal?
No, it's not that fatal like the coronavirus. Just that it will make you inactive. You will not be able to work. And we know the workforce in this country, if we make so many people not work, it means that the economy is going to be affected. But it is not as lethal as the coronavirus.
So on a personal level, what can people do to prevent the getting the virus infecting them?
Right. Self-hygiene. Make sure you keep yourself very neat. Make sure you wash your clothes very well. Make sure when you go to a gathering, you go to an office or someplace, you don't get yourself touching the walls and touching handles. If you go to a restaurant or whatever or a hotel, make sure the linen there are fresh for you to use, and then the rest. If you are going to enter a trotro and then the rest, make sure you don't sit by somebody who has lesions around himself. Even trotro drivers, so watch for people who are coming in because that is where people get close contact. In the market area, that is where people get close contact. People should observe the signs and make sure if you see somebody with those lesions, you can also report the person, but keep yourself away from touching people you don't know very well who have lesions on their skins.
Right, Doc, thank you very much for your time this evening, for educating us on the back of that development. Dr. Thomas Anaba is the Executive Health Director of the Africa Center for Health Policy there, educating us about how to avoid monkeypox, because as I did indicate earlier, the country has recorded its first monkeypox case, with the Ghana Health Service confirming the case of the monkeypox in the Bia West district of the Western North region. And the patient who has this virus is a 15-year-old boy who was sought medical attention last month at a district government hospital after experiencing fever, body pains, a sore throat, and a rash on his palm and face. A public health advisory issued by the service today noted that 230 suspected monkeypox cases have been identified across 88 districts nationwide. We are trying to have further conversations and, in fact, get responses from the authorities. That is the Ghana Health Service. We are able to speak to Dr. Franklin Isiedu-Bekwem, and he's the Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service. Let's go over the phone lines now and have a conversation with him because he's actually joined us. Dr. Bekwem, if you can hear me, thank you very much for joining us here on Starr today. First of all, how did you record this case? Hello, Dr. Bekwem.
Yes.
Great. I'm saying that if you can hear me, thank you very much for joining us here on Starr today. Let's understand the genesis of this monkeypox case that you've recorded.
Yes, so, for the since 2022, monkeypox has been on the international radar. So we have a surveillance system that tries to pick cases based on case definition. So this is a young person who presented with rashes in the face, in the palms, and then went to the health facility, and then the doctor suspected it. So the samples was sent to a reference lab and became positive. So basically, that's it. But what I want to state is that this is just one of, let's say, 230 suspected cases that we have recorded for the year. So it is not just out of the blue that we have this case. We've been following suspected cases over the period. And for this particular case, we've identified 25 contacts based on health workers and then friends that we are following.
Now, we have already recorded the cases in about 88 districts across the country. What is the containment measure that the health service is putting into place to ensure that it doesn't spread further to other districts of the country?
No, that's why I was trying to take my time to explain. We have not recorded 88 cases across. No. They are
recorded cases in 88 districts across the country?
No. As I told you, we have a surveillance system that picks suspected cases. So for the year 2024, up to 1st of October, we have picked 230 suspected cases, and of which only one is confirmed. So the rest are suspected, and they are negative. So they are not Mpox. So they are not issues to be discussed. What we're discussing is one case of Mpox. You understand? I think that people are getting confused. So there's only one confirmed case. The rest were suspected and went to the lab, and they are negative. So they are not cases.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for that clarity there. But let's find out. As a people, I asked Dr. Anaba earlier, but I also want to ask you because you're with the Ghana Health Service. What are some of the things that we should be doing and not doing?
There are lots that we are doing, we are not doing. You see, for the first one, it's about surveillance. It's about ability to detect. And that's why I'm telling you that by virtue of that system, we have suspected 230, and which have been sent to the lab, that have been tested, that are negative. So the key thing for your health security is ability to detect. That's surveillance. Second one is ability to confirm. And Ghana is one of the few countries that has capacity to confirm. Africa, only 30% of the labs are able to confirm. So Ghana, we can confirm it in Noguchi and confirm in our reference lab. So those are two big issues. The next one has to do with our ability to educate. And I'm happy you are calling us. So if you look at 2 months ago, we sent an alert across all our facilities, regions, and districts. So that heightened the awareness, and that's how come we're able to detect this case. The next one is our port of entries. So what we've done is that we have oriented our port of entries. But now that we have gotten a confirmed case, we're actually going to do training. So it's no more about orientation, it's about training. So that as we cross your borders, you can be able to be screened and the case will be detected. Then we also need to make sure that our case management systems are firmed up. By virtue of COVID, we have a number of treatment centers. So typically, Mpox is not severe. Right? We have a severe case, then it will manage in this treatment centers. What we need to do is make sure that we have reasonable quantities of PPEs, and I think that's what we're going to work on.
What are the services looking at doing, on a national level, but as a people, the citizens, what can they do to avoid the spread of monkeypox?
Yes, thank you very much. So I think what for us we need to communicate is that when you see rashes on yourself, don't try to apply an ointment and assume that it's chickenpox or pimples. Go to a health facility. Then the next one is about the spread. So monkeypox spread by contact. So if you see somebody who has rashes or bumps or like wells, we need to avoid contact. Other contact with the beddings or shirts or clothing, we need to avoid it. Or if you see a sick animal that has like bumps on the body, you need to avoid it. So it's about making sure that we avoid contact, and then also to improve on personal hygiene. So the use of hand washing with soap and running water is very important. But the best thing is to avoid contact between person that has any rash or wells or pimples on the body.
Doc, for purposes of clarity now, you say that when people find a rash on their skins, they shouldn't self-medicate. Does the health service have designated facilities that such cases can be reported to, or any general hospital can attend to such a case?
Our surveillance system is across the country. And we have key definitions that can be applied across the country. So if you see anything that is on you, go to a health facility. We have given orientation to health professionals that can suspect. It's not every bump or any swelling or any rash that is monkeypox. But the idea is that the doctor will be able to ascertain whether it could be monkeypox, and then they will take a sample and send to a laboratory. So when you see anything, just make sure you go to health facility. But typically for mpox, you see the rashes, and they may have what they call swollen lymph nodes. That may be based on at the back of your ears or at your groin. But if you are not so much of an expert, just make sure that you go to health facility, and then the doctors will take it out for you.
Right. Thank you very much, Doc, for speaking to us. I've been engaging Dr. Franklin Isiedubeku. He's the Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, giving us some education about the monkeypox outbreak. According to them, there are over 230 suspected cases, but only one of them has been confirmed at the moment. We'll bring you up to speed on this development as and when there are more details. But that takes us on to our first break here on Starr Today.
It's a great time for Ghanaian women. The nation builder John Mahama and Professor Jane Nana Opoku Ajiman will establish the first ever Women's Development Bank in Ghana, a special bank run by women, only women, to serve only women. Yes, the Women's Development Bank will support women's businesses by offering loans at a very low interest rate and on very flexible terms to empower women throughout Ghana, from hairdressers, market women, female graduates who want to go into business, online businesses owned by women, traders, dressmakers, caterers, food vendors, street hawkers, women in the corporate world, women in agribusiness, to other women-led and women-owned businesses in all fields. No one will be left out. With Mahama and Nana Jane at the helm, Ghanaian women shall surely rise. Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC.
Are you a LEAP beneficiary household member? Do you know? For your information, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, through the LEAP program, will commence the nationwide payment of the 91st and 92nd cash grants to beneficiary households on 30th September 2024. The two payment cycles, 91st and 92nd, will be combined and jointly paid to LEAP beneficiary households. Given the combined payment, 91st and 92nd cycle, one eligible member household are entitled to 512 Ghana cedis. Two eligible member households are entitled to 608 Ghana cedis. Three eligible member households are entitled to 704 Ghana cedis. And four or more eligible member households are entitled to 848 Ghana cedis. Count your money before leaving the pay point or bank, or ask your community volunteer or social welfare officer to assist. Do not accept any amount less than expected. Demand your receipt after being paid and keep it for reference. Caregiver, do not give part of your money to anyone for any reason. Caregiver, Spend your money on your household's nutrition, education of children, and productive activities to earn income or assets for sustainable livelihoods. Note that beneficiary households will not be on the LEAP program forever. Report challenges about the program to the community focal person or district social welfare officer. Also, you can call these toll-free numbers 0800 800 800 or 0800 900 900. Once again, the 91st and 92nd cycles payment commences on 30th September 2024. This message is from the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection and the LEAP Management Secretariat.
Go Ghana for. Let us gather here.
Eja, but why have you called us all here?
His Excellency John Dramani Mahama says he is coming to introduce a 24-hour economy policy that will ensure round-the-clock operations by businesses and government organizations to enhance productivity, boost production, and create millions of decent, well-paying jobs.
24-hour economy? Can you enlighten us?
Oh, simple. GM wants organizations with huge customer traffic like DVLA, passport office, ports, customs, as well as private businesses like agro-processing factories, industries, sanitation, construction companies to run 3 shifts of 8 hours each. For private businesses, Mahama will give them security support services, tax incentives, financing support, and cheap and reliable power. This is what we call Formula 133.
But what formula is that?
It simply means 1 job, 3 shifts, 3 people. Simple.
Wow, this is indeed a game changer.
Formula 133. Oh, yeah!
Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC.
Starr today. Burst, fast, and credible.
You're welcome back from that break. This is still Starr today here on Starr FM. I am Tutuwaa Danso. Now, hundreds of Ghanaians earlier today poured out onto the streets of Accra, chanting "Stop Galamsey," free protesters as they began a 3-day protest in demand for an end to Galamsey and the release of protesters remanded in police and prison custody. The 3-day protest, which is aimed at demanding the immediate release of 53 Democracy Hub members arrested during a previous anti-Galamsey demonstration, has drawn strong emotions from participants. The protesters are not only demanding the release of their colleagues, but also raising awareness about the environmental and health crisis caused by the illegal mining popularly known as Galamsey. Our sports journalist Sadiq Adams, who is currently part of the protesters, spoke to Starr News.
Well, this country is governed by the Constitution. When we say powerful people, it is the citizen. Constitution says the sovereign resides in the people. We are the people. Who are the powerful people? If we say we want to stop and we are truly united, it will stop. There are no powerful people in this country as we suggest. The powerful people are the people here. I see myself as powerful. That's why people want elections to happen before you take decisions. There are no powerful people engaged in Galamsey. The powerful people are the people you see here. We have the power to change whatever is happening in this country.
So if you have a message for every Ghanaian out there having doubts about this campaign and asking why they should be involved in this campaign, what would be your message to them?
Well, everybody who knows me has known me for all the years. I will not be influenced by someone to come and work here. I have conscience. I'm working because, like I've mentioned, there is something urgent happening. So everyone at home should not have any doubt. We are very peaceful people. The people here should be very peaceful. We should respect others. The police will also respect us. We work peacefully as we started. Everyone should conduct themselves in a manner that shows that they want order to happen in this country. You cannot be calling for order and be disorderly or disorganized. So I entreat everybody here to be respectful, anger, but in a more comported manner.
Sadiq Obama is a sports journalist expressing his frustration about the Galamsey menace there. But the protesters also submitted a petition to the Office of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice demanding immediate answers to their queries. A spokesperson for the office, Isaac Wilberforce Mensah, addressed the protesters. Take a listen.
on even at our office. So this is our way of showing solidarity to those who are demonstrating. This is our fight against Galamsey. So from our office, you saw the 2 young men who are also with me. These are also really, really brilliant attorneys. Now, instead of us maybe joining you on the streets to also protest, we are fighting very hard at our office in respect of illegal convictions, amongst others. In the same way, during some earlier protests, there were some excesses that has led to this point. And we want to thank the demonstrators today, or those protesting today, for what the briefing I have so far is that it's been quite peaceful. So we want to say congratulations to them on that score. So from where we sit, from the Office of the Attorney General, we are indeed fighting illegal mining in our own way.
There raised 2 issues, which include releasing of the 54 other protesters, the Democracy Hub protesters that are currently behind police custody. They are saying there are lots of some innocent individuals among them, like including drivers' mates, that have all been picked up, including some people that is alleged that they are even pregnant, others are not feeling too well, and they are still being kept in police custody.
Initially, there was an emphatic statement that she was pregnant, but now we are hearing it as an allegation. So that matter, I think, speaks for itself. And in any case, if there are some people who are not, or who did not engage in the excesses who were picked up, it was too soon at that point for any sort of, because when we received the dockets, this is a matter of public interest. So, of course, the police would bring the docket to the Office of the Attorney General. And when we receive the docket, we need time to look at it on case-by-case basis. So you do not be surprised if we go to court next time and we do not raise opposition to most of the bail applications.
Are you going to raise opposition? They are asking that.
Like I said, the attorneys in charge of this matter or the various cases, there are about 54 cases. I wouldn't be the one handling all the numerous cases.
They are asking for the Attorney General Department to discontinue the prosecution process. People are asking that.
So so that's why we are here to receive the petition. Is it going to be a blanket discontinuance? Is that what is being sought for? Irrespective of the excesses that took place, that would be a decision for the Attorney General himself to take, because I will not overstep the constitutional boundaries given to me. So when it comes to certain aspects, it is only the Attorney General that can take it. But I do assure you that these matters will be looked at on case-by-case basis, and that's what's happening right now.
So you just heard from the spokesperson for the Attorney General's or the Minister for Justice, Isaac Wilberforce Mensah. But let's come in the studio and have a quick conversation with my colleague, Obed Kengaglo, because he has been monitoring this process. Obed, thank you very much for joining us in the studio. Where did this whole thing start? What is the converging point and how did it start? Run us through what happened today.
Right, so the protest started this morning somewhere around 6:37 at the Okpunglu junction, which heads into the University of Ghana campus. And when it started, a number of people showed up, in maybe 50, 100 people, but immediately they moved, the numbers kept swelling alongside. They moved through the streets heading towards Opebia, through the Tetekwashi interchange, and then branched to the National Service Secretariat Road, and then came to the Kaukudi stretch, moved through the Ridge area in front of our premise here, and then moved through the Ridge Hospital Road to Parliament, and then terminated at the Accra Sports Stadium car park, just opposite the military cemetery. So those were the routes they used.
Okay. Largely, per your assessment or your observation, how was it?
I would say that it's been a successful, peaceful protest, and I think that they've been able to drum home their demands for Galamseys to stop, and also demand release of some of their colleagues who have been arrested some days back. I must say that the numbers were encouraging compared to the other protests they held some days ago, which saw the arrest of some of their colleagues. And
about
also
53 of them.
Also, the traffic situation in the capital was a bit disturbing, because I witnessed some confrontations between some drivers and the protesters, because they felt that they were being inconvenient because of the protest, to a point that one of the drivers got down and had to go and confront some of the protesters because he had a child who had had an accident, and he was sending him I beg your pardon, to the 37 military hospital. But when they got to the Kaukuri traffic light, which branched into 37, there was huge traffic, and so they couldn't move. And he felt that that was
an
very, yes, and so he had to confront them. But for the protesters, they are saying that that child may go to the hospital, but may not get clean water to be treated with, may not get clean water to drink. And so if he thinks that is being inconvenient, he should just call the ambulance. The ambulance will be given the right of way to the hospital, because we've seen a lot of ambulances giving the right of way during the protest. They're allowed to move past the traffic. So those were some of the back and forth during the protest. But I must say that they've been very, very, very compactful compared to the previous one. They moved along with the police, and the police too were professional. And I must say again that the numbers were encouraging. And from where I sit, tomorrow is going to be massive. Remember, it's a 3-day protest.
We'll have an extensive conversation shortly, but let me go over the phone lines now and engage our security analyst, Adib Sani, on what he makes of the security presence during today's protest. Adib, thank you very much for your time this evening. First of all, some people have raised concerns that the security presence today during the protest was overly huge. Tell me what you make of it.
Well, I'm just coming from the protest site. I went into the heart of the protest. I got the opportunity to speak with some protesters. In fact, I spoke with the police, most of who are my friends. And, I thought to, on an informal note, find out how things were going. They said it was okay. Just that in recent times, because of the violent nature of some of the protests, they thought that by having more men on the ground, they will better control it. And I see nothing wrong with it. I mean, even though I had calls from friends of mine who are also protesters about the presence of the high presence of police personnel, I told them, it's in their interest. I mean, if you are not, so far as you are up to good, it's not like you are up to no good, you shouldn't be worried about it, because they are there to ensure that, everything is peaceful and everybody is able to go back home safely after the protest. So for me, there's not much of a problem.
Right. This is just day one of the protest, Adib, and per your assessment, it was a largely peaceful protest, given the heavy security presence there. Going forward, what are we to expect?
Well, we have to expect more and more of these protests. This is certainly not going to be the last of it. We are headed inching closer and closer to the elections. There are a cacophony of issues from Galamsey to the Electoral Commission to a whole lot of others. And there are varied groups also and varied as well. And so we are bound to expect this. That is why I wish that the police has, taught it to have a better.
Hello, Adib. Kindly position yourself well. There seems to be. I can hear you now.
At a point, we might have multiple demonstrations happening at multiple places, because surely the request or the information would come. All right. So it is up to the police to see how they can better manage. So, in as much as we are concerned with the police providing security for the protest, they would also be fulfilling their mandate of ensuring general safety. Because, like I indicated earlier, criminal elements always want to take advantage of this period to engage in their criminal enterprises, because they feel that the attention would be much more on politically related issues rather than, the everyday security.
Adib, you say that in the coming days, because we are gearing up towards the elections, we may be experiencing multiple demonstrations in the country. Do you think the police is well equipped, especially when it comes to crowd control?
To some extent. I had challenges with the numbers, but of course they would have to make do with what they have. I've had, conversations with the IGP in the past, and he's been categorical about the fact that, look, we have a lot of needs, but what do we have at this point, and how do we make the best out of it? And I think that is the way to go about it. The police numbers is not very encouraging because we are even not fulfilling the UN ratio of one officer to about 500 citizens. In Ghana, it is one officer to about 800 citizens plus. In some parts of the country, especially densely populated areas, we can even have one officer to close to 2,000 citizens. So surely the police needs to recruit more, and they need to be given the requisite tools to be able to effectively fulfill their mandate. But what is most important at this point in time is for the police to exercise a greater deal of professionalism and power of de-escalation and power of diplomacy to deal with the situation, because we wouldn't want a situation where people would get hurt, worst case scenario, someone would get killed. Trust me, it's going to further exacerbate the situation, because as it is now, I can confidently say that tensions are quite high.
Adib, thank you very much for speaking to us there. Adib Sani is a security analyst. Let me come into the studio and wrap up with Obed. Obed, as you said, it's between today and then on Saturday. Going forward, what are we likely to be looking out for?
Right. So at the end of the protest, as you played the soundbite of the spokesperson of the Attorney General, Wilberforce Mensah was there to receive the petition, and from some indications we are hearing is that they are currently examining the dockets of the individual persons who have been remanded. And so for the protesters, since they have presented the petition to the Office of the Attorney General, they are waiting for a response today. Okay. Even before tomorrow and Saturday. So we are also waiting for that response from the Office of the Attorney General.
Was there any indication that the response was going to be given today or
so
tomorrow?
Wilberforce assured them that they are going to get a response of receipt of the petition.
Okay.
Yeah, but we don't know what exactly will contain in that response. Okay. So we are waiting for that response from the Office of the Attorney General.
Right. Obed, thank you very much. That's my colleague Obed Kengaglo monitoring developments there. Now, away from that, let's talk about illegal mining on the bulletin. Is the country gradually winning the war against Galamsey? This comes on the heels of reports that the water turbidity level in some of the polluted river bodies are improving by the day. A statement released by the Ghana Water Company Limited has also confirmed that there is a significant drop in water turbidity at Setrehimang Treatment Plant. The statement signed by the management of the Central Regional Ghana Water Limited urged customers within Cape Coast, Elmina and surrounding communities to help improve the raw water source quality. Let's go over the phone lines now and engage the convener for the Media Coalition Against Galamsey. That is Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe for more on this development. Doc, thank you very much for your time this evening. If you can hear me, is this something to be excited about? Well, unfortunately, we are unable to raise Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe on the back of this. But some good news is coming in for Ghana after the country secured more than 90% participation in its Eurobond debt exchange program. The country surpassed its set target of 65%. Now, the Ministry of Finance is urging the Eurobond debt exchange program to restructure some $13 billion of debts that the government owes to commercial external creditors. The move is expected to help the country pass the third review being undertaken by the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, mission currently in the country. Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam addressed the media a short while ago.
I am delighted, ladies and gentlemen, to announce to you that after all the negotiations, we have achieved an overwhelming success. We obtained more than 98% consent, which is significantly higher than the 65% threshold from bondholders following the launch of the exchange offer and consent solicitation in September 2024. And so the threshold we expected to achieve was 65%. What we have achieved is more than 98%. And this is the reason we are very happy about the overwhelming success of this consent solicitation. This impressive results surpasses international benchmarks and demonstrates the strong support of Ghana's bondholder community across Africa and in the international markets. It's for this reason I want to thank all our bondholders, the bondholder community, for standing by Ghana, for working with us to achieve this feat. As a result of this successful debt exchange, the country will exchange almost 13 billion US dollars in Eurobonds for new bonds in the coming weeks. This development, ladies and gentlemen, cures Ghana's default on international bonds, paving the way for normalized financial relationships with rating agencies and international markets. In a sense, Ghana has now restructured over 90% of its eligible external debt. Over 90% of our eligible external debt, marking a significant milestone in our economic recovery. We have achieved significant debt relief in record time. By this feat, we accomplished a remarkable milestone in our debt restructuring journey, completing our Eurobond debt exchange under 9 months. I do not want to assume that the other countries that have done their restructuring didn't do well, but compared with what they have done, ours has really been faster. And this is why I prefer to say our restructuring journey has been faster and bigger. Faster in terms of time, 9 months. Zambia did 3 years. Sri Lanka actually declared a debt moratorium 6 months before we started. They have not yet concluded their Eurobond, their restructuring.
You just heard the Finance Minister, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam.
Starr Today. First, fast, and credible.
You are still listening to Starr Today, and a section of the population over the last few days have taken to social media expressing frustration over power outages in recent times. The Ghana Grid Company Limited and the Electricity Company of Ghana last week announced that technical difficulties at the Ghana National Gas Company gas processing plant in Etiabo was causing intermittent power outages, while they explained that the issue had significantly reduced the power supply of gas, impacting power generations. But prior to this announcement, Minority Spokesperson on Energy and Yape Kusaugu, our MP, John Janapo, had insisted financial defaults by government to its gas supplies had led to threat of a withdrawal of services.
Because of such dubious contracts, as we speak today, there is load shedding ongoing. Gridco has been cautioned not to inform customers. Yesterday, there was a deficit of more than 500 megawatts. Today, they are going to shed load and customers in Ghana will be affected. Talo Ghana has not been paid even $1 for the past 9 months for gas supply to Ghana Gas, and Talo is threatening to curtail supply of gas. The IPPs have just dispatched a letter to the Minister of Finance intending to halt supply of power for debt and liabilities hovering around $1.2 billion. It is sad that the energy sector is collapsing. The PURC recently confirmed that ECG is on the verge of bankruptcy. ECG alone incurred a debt of 10 billion cedis in their latest financial statement.
Now, let's still stay on energy this evening, because operators at various liquefied petroleum gas filling stations are raising alarm over the looming shortage of LPG across the country in the coming weeks. They are attributing the scarcity to the rising prices in both global and local markets. My colleague Tutuwaa visited some gas stations in Accra and has filed this report.
For the past week, many consumers of liquefied petroleum gas have had to wait in long queues for hours in order to get their gas cylinders filled. Others have had to travel long distances in search of available LPG. Some consumers say this latest development has compelled them to resort to the use of charcoal despite its ban.
The fact that there is going to be a shortage of gas is not a good idea, because people use the gas for everything that we almost do. People use it for fuel, cooking, for gas, everything we are using. Most of everything in Ghana is used with gas. There are some countries that use more electricity, like stoves that use electricity. But in Ghana, everything is run through gas. So the fact that there will be a shortage, it means that already the prices of the gas has already increased. That means if we get external gas into the country, it means the price that we are currently facing already, which is already expensive, is going to double that amount, which is going to cost us to pay more money and also going to cost the government to bring more money to bring it inside.
nti paisa ban no onye bibi mfa ho na se na be ya em ko ha drinks a nti panacho.
The Institute of Energy Security has warned that LPG prices are expected to increase by 50 pesos in the first 2 weeks of October. A recent visit by the news team to various gas stations witnessed firsthand the frustration of consumers, but some operators refused to speak to the team in fear of making the situation worse. Maxwell Ajay is the assistant manager at Trinity Gas Station.
Ana atoabu gas no so almost 4 to be asi wo na ma gas na ashort no enya sa de anka gas wo tin ke ben phone bet my bibi afa ho de a ke be boy.
With the stakes high for families and businesses alike, consumers are calling on government to take swift action in order to resolve this crisis before it worsens.
Away from power, let's talk about legal issues, because news coming in just now indicates that a member of parliament for Medina, Francis Xavier Sosu Esquire, has sued the Inspector General of Police and the Attorney General on behalf of the 32 protesters over violation of their rights. The action, initiated on Thursday, October 2, 2024, is challenging the arrest, the detention, the refusal of bail, and several other violations, including the right to protest. The 32 protesters, including Oliver Mausi Bakavamawo, Elam Abebio Esquire, popularly known as Ama Governor, Ralph Amphel Williams, and Felicity Nelson. Let me go through a writ from the suit, I beg your pardon, and it says that take notice that Francis Xavier Kojo Sosu Esquire, counsel for and on behalf of the applicant herein, shall pray this honorable court for an order enforcing the fundamental human rights of the applicant to freedom of movement, right to protest and demonstrate, right to personal liberty, respect for human dignity, right to freedom of expression, right against unlawful and arbitrary arrest, detention and malicious prosecution, right to legal representation, and right to bail pending trial. That is in Articles 14, Clauses 1, 2, 15, 21, 1, and 33 of the 1992 Constitution of the applicants upon the grounds deposed in the supporting affidavits and for any others as this honorable court may deem fit. I'll run quickly and go through the demands from him. He's asking that, among many other things, the declaration that the conduct of the Ghana Police Service is in disrupting the peaceful protest violated Article 21, Clause D of the 1992 Constitution, Article 21 of the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, Article 11 of the African Charter on Human Rights and Human and People Rights, and Article 20 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. 2. A declaration that the respondents have violated applicants' rights to liberty and security of their person and freedom from unlawful and arbitrary arrest and detention enshrined in Article 14 of the 1992 Constitution, Article 9 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 9 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Principle 2 and 11 of the Body of Principles for the protection of all persons under any form of detention for imprisonment, and Article 6 of the African Charter on Human and People Rights. So these are some of the demands that Francis Xavier Sosu, on behalf of the protesters, is making. But we'll get details of this development as and when there are more to it. But let's quickly do sports now. And Monica Bukhari is seated in the studios. Monica, what do we have in sports this evening? Good evening.
Good evening, Tutuwaa. Now, the Chief Executive Officer for Ghana Athletics, Filipina Frimpong, believes Ghana has the potential to produce long-distance athletes if the appropriate support system is provided. Ghana has produced several high-profile sprinters and short-distance athletes, but speaking ahead of the Accra Marathon to be held on October 12, Filipina Frimpong revealed Ghana has equally produced astute long-distance runner. Now, speaking exclusively on GH1 TV, Filipina Frimpong said Ghana has the potential but needs proper investment to enable long-distance athletes in Ghana to perform at the international level.
Nothing is impossible. It all requires planning. It requires planning, it requires dedication, and it requires intentionality. Kenya, they have found their competitive advantage and they are playing to it. They realize that they have the lungs and the ability to run these long-distance races. The Athletics Kenya, along with their NOC, along with their government, are putting measures in place to ensure, because they've started to realize that they get revenue from this. Do we, as Ghanaians, think that we'll get revenue from our athletes doing well? That is something we need to consider. If we have long-distance runners who come from the north, we have long-distance. William Amponsa is not from the north, but Amponsa, when he gets on the track, just runs because he loves it. He's talented in that way. Fortunately for him, he has managed to get himself into a school in America, so we can say that he has a better prospect. There's Ishmael Arthur, who is in Ghana. Atia Akologo is in Ghana. Abdul Bassett, they are all in Ghana. They all run in Ghana, and they can all run these distances. But do they have what it takes to be run on the international stage? They also need investment. They also need to be helped. They are eating. Now, if you are training and while you are training, you are also wondering what you are going to eat after you finish training.
Now, FIFA's disciplinary committee will investigate alleged breaches of its rules by the Israel Football Association. The Palestinian Football Association submitted a proposal to have Israel suspended from international football in May over the war in Gaza. The FIFA disciplinary committee will be mandated to initiate an investigation into the alleged offense of discrimination raised by Palestinian Football Association, FIFA said. The PFA believes Israel's federation has committed violations of FIFA regulations and called for sanctions against the country's national teams and clubs. Now, meanwhile, Dominic Solanke has been called back into the England squad for the double-header games against Greece and Finland 7 years after winning his only cup. Manchester United, Harry Maguire and Marcus Rashford, however, were missing out, while Tottenham playmaker James Maddison has also been overlooked by interim manager Lee Carsley for the Nations League fixtures. In from Palmer, Phil Foden, Jude Bellingham, Kyle Walker and Oli Watkins are all back into the squad after missing last month's games against Ireland and Finland. Lee Carsley, manager, however, revealed the challenge of having to juggle the wealth of attacking talents with Palmer, Foden and Bellingham in his 25-man squad. England take on Greece at Wembley in the Nations League Group B. And that's all for sports. With me here, Monica Bukari. Back to you, Tutuwaa, Danso.
Monica, thank you very much for those sports updates. Now, up next on the program is the campaign trail.
It's a great time for Ghanaian women. The nation builder John Mahama and Professor Jane Nana Opoku Agyemang will establish the first ever women's development bank in Ghana. A special bank run by women, only women, to serve only women. Yes, the Women's Development Bank will support women's businesses by offering loans at a very low interest rate and on very flexible terms to empower women throughout Ghana. From hairdressers, market women, female graduates who want to go into business, online businesses owned by women, traders, dressmakers, caterers, food vendors, street hawkers, women in the corporate world, women in agribusiness, to other women-led and women-owned businesses in all fields. No one will be left out. With Mahama and Nana Jane at the helm, Ghanaian women shall surely rise. Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC.
I go Ghana for. Let us gather here.
Eja, but why have you called us all here?
His Excellency John Dramani Mahama says he is coming to introduce a 24-hour economy policy that will ensure round-the-clock operations by businesses and government organizations to enhance productivity, boost production, and create millions of decent, well-paying jobs.
24-hour economy? Can you enlighten us?
Oh, simple. GM wants organizations with huge customer traffic like TVLA, Passport Office, ports, customs, as well as private businesses like agro-processing factories, industries, sanitation, construction companies to run 3 shifts of 8 hours each. For private businesses, Mahama will give them security support services, tax incentives, financing support, and cheap and reliable power. This is what we call Formula 133.
But what formula is that?
It simply means 1 job, 3 shifts, 3 people. Simple.
Wow, this is indeed a game changer.
Formula 133. Oh, yeah, baby.
Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC.
Tutuwaa today. First, fast, and credible.
You're welcome back from that break. This is your Simply the Best station, Starr 103.5 FM. And need I remind you that EIB remains your 2024 election hub. It is now time to take you on the campaign trail. Time check is 5 minutes to the hour 6. And with 65 days to the 2024 presidential and parliamentary polls, welcome to your election hub. Now, my guest tonight is the daughter of a seasoned politician and a former legislator. She has also charted a course in politics and followed in her father's footsteps by also serving in the same constituency. She serves on several committees in Parliament and was recently in the thick of affairs when the Youth and Sports Committee began its public hearings into the current state of Ghana football and how to save it. She is a mother and an entrepreneur with a compassionate heart for constituents. Now, if you are listening to us in Odoko, Dakuman, Awoshi, Otaten, Sakaman, Bintu, Akwebu, Awoshi, Nameche and Barnyard, your beloved MP is seated in our studios. I present to you Sheila Battels, the Member of Parliament for the Ablekuma North constituency. And as always, we love interaction, so connect with us on Facebook, on Starr 103.5 FM. You can always send us your WhatsApp messages on the number 055-288-0216. Again, it is 055-288-0216. This is your campaign trail. Well, welcome once again to the campaign trail. And as I did indicate earlier, my guest is seated. Sheila Battels is the Member of Parliament for Ablekuma North. You're welcome to campaign trail, Sheila.
Tutuwaa.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? You have some concerns. Tell me.
Yes, I said, you started the introduction by introducing my father. I'm happy with that. Mm-hmm. You should add my husband too. Yeah, because the moment he gave me away, yeah.
But it was contextual. We're establishing the fact that you were following your father's footsteps.
That's true.
Yeah.
So on this note, let me say hello to the great Kwame Battels.
That's your husband.
If he's listening.
Okay.
That's my father.
That's your father, right. Thank you very much, Sheila. How are your constituents doing?
My constituents are doing great. Mm-hmm. We are all looking forward to December.
Okay.
December 7th. And we believe that we're all going to vote massively for His Excellency Dr. Baumia and Honorable Ikwe-Free, which is the best decision we can make, December 7th.
Okay.
So I encourage all of them.
Okay. Yes. Sheila, I know that You lost the primaries, unfortunately.
Yes.
But are you looking at running again?
No, not at this time. No.
And I'm asking because you know that Efia was a former member of parliament.
Yes.
She contested with you. She won.
Yes.
Mm.
You never say never, because you never know what God's plans are for you. So I wouldn't say I would not contest again. But am I thinking of it at this time? No.
No.
For now, my biggest priority and most important priority is to make sure that His Excellency Dr. Bawumia becomes the president on January 7th.
Okay,
next
but why do you think you lost? Because
why do I think I lost? Oh, well,
because I had monitored a few of the activities you had embarked on.
Yes.
So what was it that didn't satisfy your constituent that made them want to give Efia the opportunity?
So it was actually split right in the middle. The difference wasn't much.
Barely over 100.
Yes, and considering the fact that she's somebody who has been in office before.
Okay.
She had people that that follow her. I also had the people that follow me. We had quite a number of new people who became polling station executives within the last polling station executives election. We had about 450 new polling station executives in there. I would say that mostly because of my hectic schedule in Parliament.
Okay.
I didn't have the time to engage them one-on-one the way I did with in the 2020 election. So I'm assuming that they didn't get to really engage with me personally as much as I would have. I mean, I had meetings with them and we had conversations, but not the way I went the very first time. So I think that was one major part of it. Obviously, the second part is that in every election, the opponent, your opponent will do everything to make you look ugly so that they would win the vote. I think that was also something that really rode high in Ablikma. I'm not the type that maligns. I'm not the type that, will smear people and make people look dirty. I will just tell you what I can do. I would show you evidence of what I've achieved, and I would hope for the best. But the other side, did all the dirty things you can ever imagine.
But what is your relationship with Efia?
Oh, it's cordial.
Okay.
It's cordial.
Okay. She has your full support.
Oh, I support her 100%.
Okay.
In any case, I will not work for His Excellency and then expect that that seat will not come to us because we need that seat in Parliament. If you look at the experience that I have had in my first term, I know that we all have seen what has happened in Parliament in the last 4 years. It has not been pretty. It has not been easy. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I don't think that we made it very easy for His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo to run his government. Despite that, he has been able to achieve so much, and I'm really, I'm really proud of him for being able to do it under the circumstances he had to deal with Parliament.
Okay. When I was introducing you, I stated the fact that you are in a number of committees, including finance, the works and housing, and even sports, which I found very surprising.
Yes.
A few days ago, we saw news that government was planning to lease out the Saglemi housing project to a private developer. What thinking went into that decision?
If you look at that particular project, over time, the costs that had been incurred in the development of that project and stalling over time, the government had invested a lot, quite a bit of money.
About $200 million.
Yes, at the time that they initiated the project. The expectation was that the sum that had been paid at that time to the SWAL NDC government was supposed to have funded the entire project, the development of the entire project. That was how the project document seemed. But then when you go into the fine details, what had actually been done was that they were going to build a number to start off with, and then they were going to sell it. That was the fine print, really. They would build a few with that gargantuan sum of money, and then they would sell it, and then they would use the money to keep building. So that actually was the fine print. So as they built the few that they could do, and it wasn't even completed, the infrastructure had not been put in, it became very, very expensive for government to continue that, because it meant that we had to invest even more money than the initial sum that we had invested to actually bring it to shape. So that was why it was actually abandoned for a very long time, because if you take a unit and you said that you're going to sell it to somebody and for them to complete, you still needed to put in, the horizontal infrastructure, the water, the roads, and all of that. So it didn't actually make sense. The minister came to the committee and explained to us that the best way forward would be for us to assume that it is a loss. The investment that had been made so far is a loss, and we would bring somebody in who can invest in actually completing the structures, and then government will still put in the horizontal infrastructure so that we'll be able to give it out. Because then it would have been
so do you agree with
useless.
critics who say that project or government's investment in that particular project was a complete wastage?
I think in the way it was initially designed by the erstwhile NDC government, it was a complete wastage.
It was a complete wastage.
Yes, and I think the public was also deceived in that the impression that was given out there was that the money that we were spending was actually going to complete the project. And the fine print said otherwise. So we were all deceived.
Okay.
But then, it's typical. Of the
Okay, since you have plans of leasing it out to a private firm, how many firms have come up so far?
I'm actually not on the committee anymore.
Okay.
We had some changes. That's why I'm now on sports.
Okay.
So I was moved from being a member of the Works and Housing Committee to now the ranking member for sports. So I don't have the fine details of that, because at the last meeting we had, we still hadn't come to that decision of giving it out to a private company.
Okay.
But when that decision was made, that was with the current committee. So I'm not privy to the details.
Okay. Despite that, I still want to ask you one last question about the Saglemi housing project. What does Ghana stand to benefits with this government privatization deal?
Ghana lacks, from our records, about 10 million housing units. And it's something that requires a bit of time, investment and effort for us to be able to get the number of units that we need to be able to house all the people that need housing units. So I believe that for every single unit that we are able to construct, whether we are doing it for the general public or social housing, or to rent out, to lease out, to sell it to security services, they are units we need, and we cannot afford to let it sit and go waste.
Okay.
So if we are able to get somebody who will come in, put the money in, get it to finish, government supports, and then we sell it even to the security services, is something that is worth doing.
Okay, but when this project is finally completed, how affordable will it be?
I assume, with most of the structures, because I don't have the actual details of what has been given, I would beg so that I don't give you
wrong information.
Okay. But then what we have tried to do as much as possible is to let public housing be as affordable as is possible. And the Saglemi was one of the projects that was meant to be classified under the affordable housing, which means that for instance, if you look at security services, the salary ranges, they should be able to afford to pay it over a period of time. Usually they give them up to 5 years, 10 years, depending on the financing arrangement that is made. So I believe that whatever the pricing is, if you look at the TDC, for instance, state housing, mass housing projects that they have done, some of them are as low as 100,000. I mean, I've seen a TDC one unit that at a point in time cost just 100,000 Ghana cedis. And some of it can go all the way up to about 1 point something million. So really.
Okay, let's move away from housing and talk about sports. Are you interested in sports?
Personally? No.
The irony, right?
You are pushing me in a corner that is not very pleasant. Parliament will place you in the places where they believe you can thrive. I am a fanatic of the youth aspect of it, not the sports
aspect of it.
My chairman is the sports one. So Honorable Wyoming, he is the chair, and he is the sports guy. And I am the youth person. So we balance each other out very nicely. But since I've been on the committee, I've learned quite a bit.
A few things about sports.
Yes,
okay.
Because in the recent public hearings we had concerning the sports, our sports infrastructure, our games, and the recent challenge we had, particularly with the Baba Yara, we got to engage with almost all the entities that are within the sports industry. So I guess it was a classroom for me.
Okay. I am a sports fanatic, but unfortunately, I don't do stadiums often.
Good for you.
Yes, I love sports. Because it's my favorite, actually. Everybody knows that. But unfortunately, I don't do stadiums often because of the state of the stadiums in the country. And it was even more embarrassing when CAF had to place a ban on matches in our stadiums in Accra, in the country, I beg your pardon. But you came out to say that we should give the National Sports Authority the benefits of the doubt because they were working hard. How hard were they working? In the wake of what was happening.
So the information I was giving out was information that was given to us by the ministry and also by the National Sports Authority. The stadia have been undergoing some phases of renovations. So the three stadia, which the main ones, which is the Accra Sports Stadium, the Baba Yara, the Ispon Sports Stadium, they are all undergoing renovations. There were some works that was going on at both Isipong and the Accra Sports Stadium. That was the reason it was closed off, not because it was not in good condition, but it was because a certain phase of the renovation was ongoing. So they decided to close it off.
Okay.
The Baba Yara Stadium was actually in good condition. If you look at the records, there are quite a number of games that we have played, which are international games that we have played within our stadiums. But the unfortunate incident of giving it out to a church for a period and allowing them to trample, would I say, with their vehicles and destroying the pitch is what caused the embarrassment.
But the NSA knew about...
the NSA, from their submissions, they always have, from the clients that come to them or the clients they approach for business, because they have to rent the place out in order to generate revenue to take care of their operations. So this was nothing new. It was something they would always do. But of course, you have to be cautious in the way you give out your facilities, especially in the use of your pitch. Yesterday, I was looking at one country which gave out their pitch for a program, and you wouldn't see even one human being on the pitch, but the whole stadium was full. And then you juxtapose that to the Ghana situation, and you have the whole pitch, loaded with humans and all kinds of other things. I think it was a misjudgment on the part of the National Sports Authority in giving out the stadium when they knew very well that within a very short time they had an international match. And
but if you say that it was a misjudgment on their parts, why don't we give them the benefits of the doubt?
No, I was saying that we should give them the benefit of the doubt because they have given us assurance that one of the stadium, at least two of them are going to be ready, which is either Accra Sports Stadium or Cape Coast Stadium, because they knew that both of them are in good condition and they would meet the standards. In actual fact, today I had information that the Accra Sports Stadium was had been approved.
That was yesterday. The news broke yesterday.
So, as I said, they knew what they were saying when they came and they gave us assurance. I don't think that they would have come to Parliament to come and say anything there, because I mean, you wouldn't want to put yourself in that position. So we, on their behalf, we would sincerely apologize to all Ghanaians, because it's a big gaffe on our part, and I think that in the future such would not happen again, considering the fact that Ghana loves football, and you know, it brings us together. All the benefits of football we get, so we wouldn't want to be put in a situation where such embarrassment will be caused to all Ghanaians. So
you also talked about the renovations. Does it include the washrooms at the various stadia?
Yes. If you look at the projects, it's very extensive renovations, and we have to appreciate the fact that way back in 2017, AESL was contracted to perform some feasibility studies on all our stadia infrastructure. And they did that and submitted these reports in 2008. Now this feasibility study or reports was submitted to the government at the time. All the way till 2017, nothing was done. And if you look at the condition of the stadium, I would forward the report to you. If you look at the condition of each of the stadia that had been referenced in this report, it's so unfortunate that we didn't even have a touch of paint on any of these facilities from 2008 all the way till 2018, when the renovation works began. So when the Akufo-Addo government took office in 2017, that was when another feasibility was done, and based on the feasibility, contracts were issued to companies for the Accra Sports Stadium, the Baba Yara, the Isipong Stadium to be renovated. And within the report, you would see extensive works that have been done over time to actually bring these stadia back to the state where, you know, we can actually play these international matches.
Let's move away from sports. Still stay on infrastructure. You are the government spokesperson on infrastructure.
Yes.
You have had critics, or maybe from the largest opposition, NDC. They say that the Akufo-Addo government has failed when it comes to infrastructure. How do you respond to that?
Well, when you say it has failed, I think it's a very empty statement, because the Akufo-Addo government is not the only government that has ever been. Governance is a continuum, and everybody comes in and then they do their bit and they go. The difference is in the quantum and the quality of infrastructure that is developed enough to meet the requirements of the people at the time. So the question is, how much was done over the PNDC era into 2000 when Kufuor took office? How much was added to it during Kufuor's era? How much was added to it during Atamil's John Mahama? And then how much has been added again in the Akufo-Addo government? You would agree with me that despite what anybody would ever say, every single government has added roads, has added buildings, has added other infrastructure, water, drainage. They've all worked. The Akufo-Addo government, without a doubt, has added more road infrastructure than any other government ever. and the records are there. Now, if you look at the housing, for instance, we still have a glaring housing gap. I looked at the NDC manifesto in 2016, and then I've also looked at Nana Akufo-Addo's manifesto, and then I've also seen, for me, I'm a champion of His Excellency Dr. Bawumia's manifesto.
Okay.
And I can tell you that what Dr. Bawumia is looking at is more of a very forward-looking housing delivery structure that takes care of our present need. You know, sometimes there are people who would, promise all kinds of, vain, wild things. But he has segmented it into three. He's looking at social infrastructure. You and I know that if you need a place, if you're stranded and you need a place to lay your head for a night, there's nowhere like that, unless you go to a hotel. And what if you find yourself not in a position to pay for a hotel room? What do you do? There has to be social infrastructure that can take care of that. And then there has to be easy access for people who have probably come out of school, they are on their own. How do you rent a place to stay? From Nana Akufo-Addo's government into His Excellency Bawumia's intended government, they have looked at rental assistance, and they're looking at expanding that so that those who cannot afford to pay the 2-year rents and all of that would have access. And then you have rent-to-own schemes where people would be able to also rent, and the rent will go towards their down payments for a house, and then they can also be able to support themselves outside of providing a way for very, very cheap housing infrastructure for us to be able to access homes if you want to buy. There are people who don't want to buy homes, but you look around and you would see a lot of houses that are sitting idle. People have built and then they have moved, gone to live somewhere, and then you have a lot of caretakers that are taking care of that. We are looking at all of that. And then we are also looking at ways by which those who can afford, we would make it easy for them to be able to get credits, to be able to pay gradually so that they would also be able to own a home. And I think this has started from from Nana Akufo-Addo's government, and hopefully will carry into His Excellency Dr. Bawumia's government.
But let's talk about the free SHS policy, for instance, where a lot of your critics have said that you want to enroll as many students as possible, but you don't even have the classroom to house them.
So, when you're starting something, you have to look at what you have and where you want to go. We are very passionate about education, because every child that misses out on going to school is one more child that may find themselves on the streets. And trust me, if you are caring only about you and your children and you've walled your house, tomorrow that child that you have left off on the streets is the one that's going to break into your home, into your very beautifully walled house, and nobody is going to care about you. We need to make sure our children have education so that they would be able to access the opportunities that we have as a country. Now, if you give the child the opportunity, whether the person is in a shift system or the person is in a one shift, whatever it is, as long as they are going to school. We started off knowing that we had inadequate infrastructure. So what did we do? We started off with the shift system or the track system. So we had the green track and the gold track. My daughter went to gold. I had one daughter in the gold track before it was phased out. And now all of them, go into one system. But then the thing is that obviously you have I know that you have two groups or two classes in school at a time, whilst one class is home, so that they'll be able to accommodate more of the children. And I can also assure you that the Ministry of Education has put up more classroom blocks within the last 4 years than in the last 12 years, so that we'll be able to accommodate the growth of children.
You say the Ministry of Education has put up
more
classroom blocks
classroom
in the last 4 years.
In the last
more
4
than the
years.
last 12 years.
Yes. Yes.
How many classroom blocks have you put up in the last 4 years?
You know, I am not education, so I couldn't. I don't have that data, but I believe that we could quickly search on it and then be able to give you actual numbers. But then I know that from the ministry that a lot more classroom blocks have been put in, a lot more dormitories have been built to accommodate.
Than in the last 12 years.
Than in the last 12 years, to accommodate the children, the growth of the free SHS program. And I think that you can look at the numbers, and then I'll also look at the numbers and then quickly share it with you. But I'm sure that we can share it with the public before we leave this conversation.
Okay, we'll definitely come to those findings. But Sheila, you are also you serve on the tourism committee.
No.
You're not culture. No. You are no longer on the culture and tourism.
No,
it's just
the
sports.
culture has been decoupled from the youth and sports.
Okay.
So it's only the youth and sports, and we've actually you know, the assignment was done just before we closed our last meeting.
Okay.
So we are yet to actually start sitting formally. We only met to work on the hearings that we had.
Okay.
Even though we are on break.
Okay. Now, when it comes to Ablekuma North, what would you say is your legacy project?
So my legacy project is not completed. It's
what is that?
It's still in progress. You know, I'm an IT person.
Okay.
I'm a digital girl. That's why Baumia is my favorite guy in the whole world. I can tell you because I have seen what digitalization has done to countries worldwide and how we are struggling to catch up, but just the little we've been able to achieve, even with mobile money and all of that. Do you know how impressed people are with Ghana? You know, so I have been in IT for the last 24 years, since 2000. I've been an IT entrepreneur. You mentioned that I'm an entrepreneur. Yes, I've been in IT entrepreneurship. I run a company called In Charge Global, which was providing mobile money agency services to banks across the country. So
the project you're putting up, is it IT related?
IT related, yes.
What is it? Is it a computer
called,
lab?
McCarthy Hill Basic School. McCarthy Hill Basic School was built by my father.
Okay.
So the main structure I have recently renovated. And there's a building, a smaller building that was put up by the former MP, Honorable Joe Appiah. So he couldn't complete it before the end of his term. So what I have done is I'm converting, it's actually two big classrooms. So I'm completing the structure and converting it into 2 digital libraries and classrooms.
So that is going to be your legacy project.
That's my legacy project.
I'm just being prompted that we are out of time. But
are we?
Unfortunately, it went by too fast.
Just when we were talking about digitalization.
Unfortunately, I believe that we'll have an extension soon. But you pride yourself in this government, saying that the government has constructed a lot of roads, but that cannot be said in your constituency. Do you agree?
So, you know, my constituency has all the major roads in my constituency have been done. All the major roads. You know, when I say a major road, I mean roads that interconnect all our various electoral areas. So if you say, for instance, the road that connects Odoko to Kwashiman, to Santa Maria to Sakaman, to
but the Dansoman Junction road is terrible, especially when it rains.
The Hansonic,
yes.
So the Hansonic Junction, actually, you know, I've worked on that patch already. I worked on it and it's gone bad again because that place is supposed to connect to the First Light major drainage. That place, the problem is a drain. There is a drain just by the techno where people, a lot of people drop their waste material. Sometimes you
Sheila,
find
for purposes of time.
Oh yeah.
You just tell Ghanaians. It's only fair that I do this for you. So tell Ghanaians in about 20 seconds why they should vote for the Bawumia since he's your favorite guy.
Okay, so His Excellency Dr. Bawumia has presented his bold solutions for jobs and business, and I believe that being a vice president of Ghana in the last 8 years, he has demonstrated to us that with the little resources that he has been given, he is the one that has demonstrated that he's able to do a lot with a little.
Okay.
And his ideas, the bright ideas he has, especially for jobs and also for transformation of the economy, they are realistic.
Okay.
And they are something that Ghanaians can actually put a finger on and take to the bank.
Okay.
And I will encourage especially the youth to trust Dr. Bawumia over anybody.
Okay.
Because his plans for job creation and also for ensuring that we have a better future is something that we can actually trust.
So in essence, we should dial 1 to break 8. Is that it?
Absolutely.
Okay,
it's
thank
number
you.
1 and it is possible with number 1.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Sheila. Well, so that wraps up campaign tour here on Starr today. And in essence, we draw the curtain on Starr today as well. I've been engaging the Member of Parliament for Able Kuma North. Thank you very much for joining us here on Starr today. I'm Tutuwaa Danso. Please visit starfm.com.gh for more news content. We'll be back tomorrow with Starr today. Have a good evening.